As you can see, there was a few things that I did that I'm not very proud of, but it's part of life. Anyway, the worst thing that I did, and probably the thing that I felt probably the most guilty for, but probably was the best thing that ever happened to me with regard to stealing, because it certainly stopped my stealing habit. And what it was that I had slept in Mrs. Morris's bed, and she had got up and gone downstairs. And when I got up, I noticed on the dresser some money. And at the time I didn't know, but that money was used for dry cleaning, and of course some of the dry cleaning was my clothes. Anyway, I took that money and I went down the street, down Beach Street, knocked on Normie Ferguson's door, showed him all the money I had. Let's just say there was $7. I don't know how much there was, or maybe it was 10. Anyway, it was a lot of money for us. So him and I said, oh, well, let's go. It was Saturday, so let's go to the show. So we go down to the show, and we're lined up to go into the show. And what I recall was Mrs. Morris coming down the street, and she walked up to me, and she said, did you steal any money? And of course I said no. And then she looked at me and she saw a pocket knife. And she saw a new pocket knife hanging from Normie Ferguson as well. And she said, well, where'd you get that knife? And then I said, well, yes, I did steal the money, and I bought Normie and myself some things from the 5 and 10. She said, come with me. And she took me, and she took the knife, I think, from Normie, gave it to me. She marched me into the 5 and 10 store, and she talked to the lady at the counter, the checkout counter, and she said, I want you to tell this lady what you did, and, you know, that you were returning it and you'd like to get your money back and you want to apologize. So I did all that. Anyway, we had gone into the drugstore and bought some things, and the main thing, I think Mrs. Morris wanted to try to get that money back because she needed it. And anyway, I think the drugstore gave her the money back, even though we had eaten the chocolate bars. And then we went down to, there was a restaurant, and we had gone in that restaurant and had something to eat. And I think the guy's name was Joe that ran that restaurant. And anyway, Mrs. Morris and him got into a big argument. She was explaining what I had done, and she wanted the money back, and he went into a whole explanation that, you know, I'd been in, and Normie and I were rotten kids, and he wasn't going to give the money back. Anyway, she marched me home. She said to me, go upstairs, get my hairbrush. Now, you have to understand, Mrs. Morris had never, ever hit me. Anyway, I got her hairbrush, came down, she gave me a couple cracks on the rear end with that, and then she started going over to the phone, and she said, I'm phoning the Children's Aid, and I'm sending you off to the orphanage. Or back to the orphanage, I don't know which, because I don't remember exactly how old I was when this happened. Anyway, I started crying. I swore up and down that I would never steal anything again. And that's the story of how Mrs. Morris broke me from stealing. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.